Hello, and welcome to Camp Guernsey Joint Training Center. Camp Guernsey is as tough as the soldiers who train here, which is why it is one of the Army Guard's go-to training sites. But despite Camp Guernsey's ruggedness and its ability to handle multiple battalions completing task force-level training, there are some environmentally sensitive areas that everyone should be aware of. The purpose of this training film is to inform and instruct our guests on how to minimize the environmental impacts at Camp Guernsey while not interfering with the training mission. As we say here at Camp Guernsey, leave no trace.
This video covers the following topics: natural resources and site restoration, cattle grazing, river crossing, artillery and ranges, vehicle wash rack, fuel point and spill response, potable water, waste turn-in and disposal, off-road driving, cultural resources, digging and field mess, and leaving Camp Guernsey.
Camp Guernsey is rich with historical structures and artifacts. In fact, archaeologists have recorded over 1,300 archaeological sites on Camp Guernsey since the first surveys were conducted in the early 1990s. These sites include rock art or petroglyph sites, which feature designs and symbols carved into the rocks by Native Americans and European settlers for over 1,000 years.
We're visiting a rock art site that has prehistoric as well as historic inscriptions. The prehistoric portion of this has a couple of figures from male fertility societies of Native Americans, and all around those are inscriptions from immigrants from the Oregon Trail, California Trail, as well as modern graffiti. So people have been coming to the site for thousands of years, and as you can see through time, it gets a little busy, and the integrity of the site is diminished each time someone inscribes something new on this rock art panel. For preservation, we would like, if you ever see these in the field, please feel free to look. Please do not touch, and definitely do not inscribe your own name or your own art onto the rock faces, please.
In addition to rock art, stone circles, other artifacts, and over 12 miles of historic trails, Camp Guernsey is home to the historic remains of homesteads and ranches. Some of these historic structures are not only quite old, but also in very poor condition. If you encounter one of these structures, enjoy from a distance. Do not use them for shelter, cover, or concealment.
Here's another stone circle. It's kind of broken. You can see here the arc, but it's open towards the east, which a lot of the teepee rings do open to the east here at Camp Guernsey. But you can see also lots of other associated stones that are not in line of the circle, and those are part of the feature as well, part of the reasons why we asked you to not move rocks.
The Oregon, Mormon Pioneer, and California Trails all crossed Wyoming as part of the transcontinental migration of the 1840s, 50s, and 60s. Portions of these trails followed the North Platte River and can still be seen at Camp Guernsey and surrounding areas. In many areas at Camp Guernsey, the original rut marks are protected by hard covers. If you come across unprotected rut marks, please do not disturb. Enjoy them from a distance and allow future guests at Camp Guernsey the opportunity to take in our rich history.
Let's review what we've learned.
River crossings have been part of our military tactics since General Washington crossed the icy waters of the Delaware to fight and win the Battle of Trenton. There are many things to consider when conducting river crossing training. The depth of the water, the width of the area to be crossed, current velocity, rocks and debris, and bank conditions are just a few factors that Washington likely contemplated while preparing for battle. It is also likely that the commander did not consider environmental impacts. We can be almost certain that soil erosion and disturbance of ecological habitats never crossed the general's mind, nor should they have. Environmental concerns are not exactly high on the priority list when fighting a real battle. But they do matter during training. So, when conducting a river crossing while at Camp Guernsey, take a minute and notice how it may impact the environment. Try to avoid soft areas where the land disturbance associated with the crossing could cause erosion. Be sure to secure all materials carried to avoid littering the river. And take notice of ecosystems such as birds' nests and aquatic life. These considerations are especially important because units must conduct crossing exercises off-site since Camp Guernsey does not have any bodies of water. Guernsey and Glendo State Parks, as well as nearby Grey Rocks Reservoir, have been historically used for bridge and Zodiac training. Here are some steps to take and other factors to consider when conducting training on water while at Camp Guernsey. Units must coordinate with Camp Guernsey operations and contact the state park superintendent. Units should also request bivouacking at these locations if applicable. To access the North Platte River, which is on state parks land across from the cantonment at Gate 10, units must coordinate with Camp Guernsey operations and contact the state park superintendent. Access to the river from Gate 10 can be limited from overgrowth of vegetation. Contact camp operations to determine status, and a work order may need to be submitted to trim vegetation. Another thing to remember when launching watercraft into local waters are aquatic invasive species, AIS, that may be attached to your boat.
I ought to lock you up.
Aquatic invasive species are exotic or non-native aquatic organisms that have been determined to pose a significant threat to native aquatic species, resources, water supplies, and water infrastructure. For example, zebra and quagga mussels pose a great ecological and economic threat to the state of Wyoming and can affect every water user in the state. To avoid introducing these organisms to our waters, contact the Environmental Office to determine the need for an AIS inspection. Be prepared to identify where your boats have been. Certain states and waters are listed as high risk, suspect, positive, or infested. You should be able to produce records of the last body of water your boat has been in, as well as the last date of use. Be safe, have a successful crossing, and above all, leave no trace.
Let's review what we've learned.
Cattle grazing occurs in both the north and south training areas. This activity typically occurs from May through December. Coordinate with camp operations and the livestock grazing program manager if cattle will affect training activities. If you need to move cattle from your training location, you must provide at least a 10-day notice.
Let's review what we've learned.
Seibert stakes are used to alert the off-road driver of the location of a no-drive area. They consist of a metal rod with a color-coded cylindrical plastic top. While driving in a non-restricted area, only the red and yellow stripes should be visible. If you can see the black stripe, you are in a no-drive zone and should immediately drive to the other side of the stake. So, if you are unsure whether you are in a no-drive zone, just remember this rhyme. If you can see black, go back.
Let's review what we've learned.
Camp Guernsey is home to many types of wildlife, vegetation, livestock, and water sources, which are all managed under Camp Guernsey's Integrated Natural Resources Management Plan, or INRAMP. The overall goal of the INRAMP is to maintain and improve the ecological integrity of the lands in Camp Guernsey in order to ensure that the maximum amount of land is available for quality training.
My name is Amanda Tamaya. I'm the Natural Resource Manager for the Wyoming Military Department. Natural resources is pretty much everything you see out in the training area. So that includes wildlife, soils, plants, bugs, water. There's lots of laws that we use to manage natural resources. Some of them include the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and so that prohibits anybody from harassing or killing a migratory bird or their nest. The other laws that we need to be thinking about is the Clean Water Act that is going to protect waterways, baby animals. So if you're here in late May and early June, elk and deer and pronghorn are having their babies at that time. And some of those restrictions are buffers around some bird nests, and those bird nests that we protect are usually the birds of prey, so raptors, so like eagles. Be respectful of the wildlife and both the flora and the fauna on the site. And if you see something that you have a question about, ask environmental about it.
What we're looking at here is a vegetation rehabilitation project we did about 10 years ago. Similar to that bivouac site down there, we had a unit come in here. There were several units through the summer that came through here, and it really disturbed the ground vegetation, a lot of soil disturbance in here. So we came in and we planted our cover crop, which comes up and provides real quick soil stabilization, and also include a mix of native grasses that we want to eventually populate this site to consider it fully recovered. So what we see here is some disturbance from last year's training season. This disturbance is caused from tracked vehicles. It could have been like an armored personnel carrier, self-propelled howitzer, or an MLRS rocket launcher. We had all three of those out here last year. From our perspective here in ITAM, this is kind of one of the biggest causes of ground disturbance. We like to promote the idea of train how you fight how you train. I think it's great for the soldiers, the military trainers, to kind of understand the significance of this type of disturbance here. If we were to leave this with no rehabilitation, it could take 3 to 5, 10 years even for Mother Nature to kind of come in here and recover the ground. Our mission is basically to include principles of sustainability, incorporate the training mission, and really manage the land that's going to sustain the capabilities of the land to support the training mission at hand. The ITAM program involves land rehabilitation and maintenance, range and training land assessments, training requirement integration, and GIS. So we kind of take all those things and utilize them in the best way possible to kind of inform the military trainers on sustainability, inform them of the capability of the land to sustain those missions, and to do everything we can to promote sustainable military training operations.
Let's review what we've learned.
Roger that. We're going to fly over to the wash rack.
Would you stop there? Yes, clear. Clear.
The wash rack is yours to use while at Camp Guernsey. Your unit commander should have already submitted a request through RIFMAS with the date and number of vehicles to be washed. The vehicle wash rack is located in the cantonment area at the intersection of Laramie Road and Bone Pile Road, just east of the airfield. It consists of 2 single-wide wash pads, a double-wide wash pad, a pump house, and 3 lagoons which circulate recycled water. Be sure to coordinate with the wash rack POC, who will meet you there and turn on the pumps. We've arrived at wash rack number 1.
So this water here is basically pumped into the building where they fill up storage tanks, and then they're pumped back out through the spigots into the hoses to where they wash these needs.
Now let's go over some do's and don'ts. Typical garbage items, such as used paper towels, beverage cups, and pizza boxes, may all be thrown in the dumpster. As indicated in the caution sign, items prohibited from dumpsters include electronics, liquids and chemicals, containers such as paint buckets and aerosol cans, and wastes classified as hazardous. Unfortunately, we can't handle your medical waste. You are on your own with those items. The best way to get rid of MRE heaters is to cook them off, let them cool down, wrap them up, and toss them in the dumpster. If not cooked off, they are hazardous waste due to reactivity. This is the USP and FO located in Building 13. The warehouse area where wastes may be turned in is around back. General hours are 7 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. It's always a good idea to call ahead. Getting to Building 13 is easy. We are headed there now. The Wyoming Guards Environmental Compliance Manager is waiting for us. There he is now. It looks like he is ready to show us around. What types of waste can we turn in here that we can't just throw in the dumpster?
So personnel, when they get ready to discard their hazardous materials, they bring them here to the warehouse. And from there, we accept like paint booth filters. We accept used fuels, used antifreeze. We accept aerosol cans, which we puncture. We accept all kinds of different adhesives, batteries, fluorescent lamps, sodium mercury vapor type lamps. And so that's how we deal with the waste here.
How should we handle our weapons cleaning waste?
Materials contain a lot of lead in them, so they're considered hazardous waste. So they bring them here, we put them in a UN rated drum. When the drum gets full, we cap it off, and then we send it off to be disposed of properly.
Units turning in waste must also bring a completed tag Form 123 and the safety data sheet. This is all explained in further detail in Camp Guernsey's Hazardous Waste Management Plan, available online or from the Environmental Office.
Let's review what we've learned.
The fuel point is located adjacent to the wash rack and is available for units that train at Camp Guernsey. Let's listen as the Camp Guernsey fuel manager explains how to operate the pumps.
Well, we're here at the fuel point at Camp Guernsey. This is where units and personnel that work here will fill up the vehicles that they use in conjunction with their duties. So right here we have what is known as a gas boy. It comes with a Pro key. Put it in here, or you have a special card that is inserted. You type in a certain code, then you pull out the Pro key or the card. You step over here, and whatever fuel you're going to get, whether it's all gas or jet fuel, F24. We don't use diesel fuel here. This F24 fuel will work in diesel-powered engines with diesel-powered equipment. So when you're dispensing fuel into your vehicle or your equipment here at the camp, and let's say something malfunctions and you start spilling fuel on the concrete here.
Assess the safety. Get out if unsafe. Clear the area. Call the fire department. If safe, stop the flow. Contain the spread. Report the spill. Remain at the scene.
All spills are reportable in the Wyoming Army National Guard if it's 1 quart or more. If it's less than 25 gallons, it's not reportable to the state unless the fuel hits the waters of the state.
Units need to have serviceable spill kits on site at all times. The Environmental Office does have kits for units to sign out, but they are limited in supply. If you do need a spill kit, be sure to reserve the kit ahead of time. Make sure to have vehicle drip pans. Use them under parked vehicles, especially those with known leaks. Secondary containments for fuelers and emergency generators are available for no cost from the Environmental Office. But like spill kits, they are limited in supply, so reserve early.
Let's review what we've learned.
While Camp Guernsey offers the conveniences of a modern, fully staffed dining facility, clean, safe drinking water, and piping hot showers in the cantonment area, eating, drinking, and bathing in the training areas can be challenging, but never impossible. Camp Guernsey has multiple locations where troops can obtain fresh, potable drinking water. The water supply here at Camp Guernsey, regulated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, is treated and tested every month to ensure safety. Furthermore, potable water on cantonment is treated, chlorinated water. The South Training Area has 2 non-treated potable sites, Grey Rock's main house and the MRF range. The North Training Area has 3 sites for non-treated potable water: QTR Firing Range, Ryan Springs Shower Point, and near the Law Range Maintenance Facility. Chlorine residual records can be requested from the Environmental Office if needed. And finally, non-potable water locations include, but are not limited to, Range Guard 3, Range Control, Range Road, Smith Ranch, Tack Strip Tower Tank, and the South Training Area Guest House. When setting up field mess halls and showers, you must dig gray water sumps. Here are some things to remember. The cantonment area has a site to dump into the wastewater system or directly onto the ground with approval from the Environmental Office. Units may either pump or drain gray water into a ground sump, or may contract out with a company that has gray water containments. However, gray water must be pumped out of these containments and disposed off-site or at a site approved by the Environmental Office. Only gray water is allowed in the sump, no food particles. Units that dig their own sumps must provide an 8-digit grid location for approval by the Environmental Office. Units must fill sumps with soil prior to site clearing and obtain sign-off from the Environmental Office.
Let's review what we've learned.
In this section, we are going to use a scorecard to gauge the environmental awareness of our guests. We have selected the artillery range because it is a high-profile activity with unique environmental impacts. We are fortunate here at Camp Guernsey to have a seasoned soldier who has been coming to Camp Guernsey for years. He is at the range now and will tell us how more than a decade of training here at Camp Guernsey can sharpen one's environmental awareness.
My name's Captain Luke Meyer. I'm the operations officer for 2300th Field Artillery Battalion, High Mars Battalion for the Wyoming Army National Guard.
The number one significant environmental impact at the Wyoming Guard is the potential for wildfires. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're very cognizant of that, especially with what we do with rockets. Like, if we're just to fire a rocket in the jungle, it's going to start a fire. It doesn't matter how wet it is or anything, just the amount of fuel that's in that rocket is going to start a fire because it's burning it up the ground.
In your many years with the Guard and training at Camp Guernsey, what changes have you seen with respect to environmental awareness?
When I joined the Guard 15 years ago, there was no indication of what a cultural site was. And now with the receiver stakes and everything, really tell kind of where things are at a lot better to be able to stay at.
Thanks, Captain. I see you are ready to demobilize and will be heading our way. We'll see you when you get back and pick things up from there. Ranges are a vital part of training. Wars are won by soldiers who are able to hit their targets. We invite all units to use our ranges, from small arms all the way up to artillery. But units should also be aware of the environmental consequences from arms fire, especially artillery, which may even cause wildfires. In fact, wildfires are the Wyoming Army National Guard's most significant environmental impact. Looks like Captain Meyer is back from the range. Let's go finish up with the environmental scorecard.
And, some of the things that we do when we're in Camp Guernsey, we try to be cognizant of cultural sites, try to be cognizant of the wildlife that's out here, the historic preservation that's out here for things like the Oregon Trail. Long time ago, 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot out here to tell us where not to be. Now, Camp Guernsey's really done a good job of trying to identify where those places are that we shouldn't be with cyber stakes and signage. And so we try to respect that and also train to get the mission done. And we have a job to do, but we also have to work with local, environmental, and other units to make sure that everybody's safe and that we preserve this for everybody to train on for years to come.
Leaving Camp Guernsey. All field units will be cleared before leaving Camp Guernsey. Schedule a day and time to clear occupied training and bivouac areas with environmental staff. Use Camp Guernsey's written environmental procedures as a guide to checking out.
When returning to Camp Guernsey, start the approval process as early as possible. It may be lengthy depending on activities needing clearance. Complete the questionnaire packet and submit between 45 and 90 days prior to the training date. Packets submitted less than 45 days prior to training will not be reviewed or approved. If outside of required dates, contact the Environmental Office directly. That about wraps it up. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy your stay. Get in some good training, explore the area, take in the spectacular sights, and above all, leave no trace.